What's going on, guys, and welcome to Who to Sign For. Now in this series I'm giving you my recommendations on what players to sign for a specific team in career mode. But before we go on, I will say that the signings you'll see aren't designed to be realistic, which is very important, and that the player ratings and potentials may vary depending on what database you're using and how they perform for you during the season. You don't have to follow all the tips. This is really just a set of guidelines to give you a hand if you're stuck for ideas and want some suggestions on what players you could sign for a certain club. This is mainly aimed at those of you out there who may be new to the game and just want some help, or for those of you out there who may be stuck for ideas on what players you could sign for a certain team in career mode. So in today's episode of Who to Sign For, guys, we are going to take a look at Atletico Madrid, the Spanish side, who currently tonight will be taking on Leicester City in the first leg of their Champions League quarterfinal at the Vicente Calderón. But just before I move into the episode, I do want to say I initially planned to do a Borussia Dortmund Who to Sign For tonight on the back of what would have been their first leg against Monaco yesterday evening, but due to the disturbing and upsetting events of last night, I didn't want to upload it and make it because I didn't want to have any kind of controversial comments in the comment section down below, and I thought because of that we'll save it until next week and do Atletico Madrid tonight instead. I didn't want to upset anyone by doing a Dortmund Who to Sign For after the very sad events of last night, and then hopefully we'll do it next week and that'll be totally fine. I just didn't want to upset anyone. But anyway, Atletico Madrid's team then, it's a 5-star team, and of course it's a really awesome team, Atletico's side, under the guidance of Diego Simeone. He's built a really awesome Atletico team, and I must say it's a really nice blend of youth and experience, and in the game as well, it basically shows you sort of like the way a team should be built when going forward, of really young talent and also guided and under the experience of some older players in similar positions, if that makes sense, which it probably doesn't, but it's a good team anyway, is what I'm trying to say. It's 5-star, and of course a really nice 4-4-2 setup. They have a £51 million budget in the first season, and their objectives in the first year are to finish in the top 4 of La Liga, to reach the Copa del Rey semi-finals, and also reach the Champions League final as well. Now, of course, last season they finished in 3rd in La Liga. They were quarter-finalists in the Copa del Rey and also were runners-up in the Champions League as well. So basically the same objectives as their finishes last season, apart from this year needing to reach the semi-finals of the Copa del Rey, as opposed to last year when they could only reach the quarter-finals. Now, they have a lot of players that are loaned out from the Vicente Calderón as well. Tons and tons of players. A lot of young, real talents as well, such as Luciano Vieto and Oliver Torres, that are currently loaned out from the club right now. I would only recommend recalling one player, and that's a 31-year-old. It's the Brazilian centre-back Miranda, who currently plays on loan at Inter right now at the San Siro. He's 31 years old, so he's not going to get any better, and whilst he's out on loan, he's not going to progress and develop into a better player. He'll cost you just under £1 million to recall him, but he's 86 rated, so he's good enough right now to go into the first 11, and I know some people don't like doing that, but as I said at the start of the episode, these videos, they're not supposed to be realistic in any way whatsoever. I don't care about realism. Recall the guy straight away. It'll cost you less than £1 million, and for an 86 rated centre-back, yeah, sure, he's probably going to decrease in ratings in the first couple of seasons, but there's no point in leaving him out right now at Inter Milan. There's absolutely no point whatsoever. Bring him back to Spain and put him in the first 11, or at least on the bench. But as for new contracts as well for players with their deals that come at the end of the year, lots of players do have their contracts up coming at the end of the season. Important players as well, such as Fernando Torres, for example. I would let every single one of those players go in the first season or come the end of the first season, but only give out one contract, and that would be to, I'm not sure how you pronounce this guy's name, but is it Amath, who's a striker who has 85 potential as well as 4-star skill moves as well. Keep the guy here. He is definitely a really good young talent. But as for new signings with Atletico Madrid, I would say that one player to go in for is the Portuguese winger currently playing for Monaco right now, Bernardo Silva, who has 90 potential and is 83 rated. I'd also recommend selling Fernandes here as well, Augusto Fernandes, if you can get him for a round valuation. Now, you might have to spend upwards of £40 million on the Portuguese player, but this guy is really awesome. One of the best things about him is well, he can play through the middle of the park as well in the cam role. He's only 21 years old, but already 83 overall, and you might wonder why I target a right midfielder when they currently have Koke playing on the right hand side. Well, personally speaking, Koke can definitely play that position, I mean obviously, but I would say that he's probably better suited in the game to play through the middle. He's got some really awesome passing stats, some good ball control stats as well. and of course a 4-star weak foot 2 with high work rates. I would say Koke should probably be playing in the game through the middle of the park, and I'd look to sign a new right midfielder. And if you're going to do that, then I'd recommend Bernardo Silva. He's also a left-footed player, which means he can cut into his left foot and shoot, just like on the left side, Yannick Ferreira Carrasco, the Belgian, can cut into his right foot and shoot. They've both got 4-star skill as those wingers, and I think Bernardo Silva would be a really good addition. Again, you're probably spending around £40 million on the guy, which is £12.5 million over his valuation, but I'd say he'd be worth every single penny. When you look at those stats right there, he looks really decent to begin with, and again, he's got 90 potential. Imagine those technical stats at 90 overall. He'll be an absolute monster, and again, being a left-footed player that plays on the right-hand side, Carrasco being a right-footed player that plays on the left-hand side, it's just ideal if you have those wingers and those wide midfielders cutting in and shooting on their preferred foot when they get themselves close to the penalty area. But as for sales as well, I did say I'd let every single player go that has their contract up come the end of the year, either at the end of the season or in the first transfer window. Two of those players are a goalkeeper called Bernabe and also Alessio Kirchie as well, who's now listed as a right midfielder. He used to be listed as a striker or a centre forward, I do believe. Maybe that's why his overalls are not too good. Both of those players though had their contract coming the end of the year. They're not part of the long-term future of Vicente Calderon. I'd let them both go for whatever kind of money you can get. But as for yet more signings with Atletico, once you sign, I should say, Bernardo Silva for around £40 million, you might have a little bit of money left over, or you should do, and I'd recommend bringing in this guy right here for the central midfield role, Florentin Tolisso, who is a really awesome young talent. Like Bernardo Silva, 21 years old, he has 89 potential, and he will be an absolutely fantastic player to bring in at 81 overall. Of course, Atletico have a couple of aging midfielders in their team right now, such as Fernandez, who of course we sold in this episode, and also Gabby, and also Thiago as well, who will most likely retire in the first season as well, so keep your eye on him. And as for a new long-term successor in the CM area, we got Sol, and again, you probably want to play Koke through the middle in the game, or at least I would suggest, but Tolisso is another one of those players who will be a great addition for Atletico's side through the middle of the park. This guy's got some absolutely fantastic stats already, just 22 years old now in the game as the game was advancing there. The main reason why I'd recommend Tolisso is because he's a really versatile, well-rounded player, and you can pick him up for around 25 to 30 million pounds. I got him for 25 million, which is 4 million over his valuation. But imagine this guy at 89 overall when he hits his peak. Look at his stats right now. I mean, physically he's well-rounded, technically he's well-rounded. He's only got 4 yellow stats. Everything else is light green or dark green. The guy is absolutely fantastic in a more defensive position, or a more attack-minded position, or just in a natural CM role. He would be a really awesome addition to Atletico's side and a really great signing. I would definitely recommend Tolisso, and to be honest, I recommend Tolisso for any big club. I mean, seriously, this guy has got some amazing stats already, and again, being well-rounded is so important. I always like at least one CM in my team to be so well-rounded, knowing that he can play in a range of different positions in the spine. He'd be a great signing and a great addition for around £25 million. But as for new signings with Atletico, with any money left over, I would just recommend bringing in a couple of decent young Spanish players. One is Dani Ceballos, who I've had a couple times before. Now, just like Tolisso, this guy would be a really handy player to have because he can play in a range of different positions. He's got CM listed, CDM, I think LM and CAM as well. But when you look at his stats, this guy could play in any position in midfield. He's 78 rated already, just 20 years old. One of the big bonuses about going in for this guy as well is that his contract is up come the end of the year, which means you should be able to get him for around his valuation. In previous FIFAs, it was easier to convince clubs to let players with 1 year left on their deal to go for under the valuation. Now, it's very hard to do that, but you can pick him up for around his valuation anyway. I've got him for £12 million, which is £1.5 million over his valuation, not that much. And again, at 78 overall, just 20 years old, you know the kid's got potential. It's 86 in the game, and he'll be another really addition for Atletico. And just like Tolisso, just like Bernardo Silva, an early 20-year-old player who would be a really good addition. His salary is quite low as well. You're probably only paying about 25 grand a week on a 5-year deal, which is really, not a lot for Atletico Madrid's budget. And he'd be a great addition. And again, one of those really big bonuses, being a player that can play in a range of different midfield positions, he would be a really, really smart pickup for, again, around his valuation. And with those listed positions, medium work rates, 3-star skills, 3-star weak foot, are definitely a good addition for Atletico. And if you have any money left over after those 3 players, you might do, you might not. I would just just say going for one or two more Spanish young talents. I went in for one more. This guy right here, Javi Hontiveros of Malaga, 70 overall, 18 years old. This is a left midfielder who's, you know, quick enough, I suppose, as an 18-year-old. Some decent technical stats to begin with. Has 83 potential. One thing to be wary about with this guy, though, is that you probably won't pay much money for him, but his stamina is tragically low. Now, if anyone's a Malaga fan or a La Liga watcher, can you tell me why his stamina is so low? It seems to be a theme with quite a few young talents in world football in FIFA. For some reason, their stamina is ridiculously low. This guy's stamina, I think, is 34 or 35 or something like that. That's nothing. That's absolutely nothing, considering how bad players get fatigued in this year's FIFA. This guy's going to be shattered, you know, by halftime. This guy has to be taken off by the 30-minute mark. I don't know why his stamina is so low. And again, if anyone's a La Liga watcher or a Malaga fan, tell me why his stamina is so low, because I've got literally no idea. It's 34. 34 for stamina, that's nothing. But anyway, you can train stamina in the games. It's not too big of a deal, but it's really weird. It's really weird. But anyway, I bought him as well. I think it was £2.6 million to fee for him, and in the end spent £79.6 million on those 4 new players. But again, the 4 players coming in, you know, Bernardo Silva, 90 potential, Tolisso, 89 potential, and then Ceballos and Ontiveros, 2 Spanish talents, 86 and 83 potential respectively. You got some really decent young players here with some very good potential as well that are really going to benefit this Atletico side, not just in the first season, but for many years to come as well. There'll be great additions, and definitely 4 players, I would say, that are worth spending your entire budget on in the first season. But as per usual, we'd simulate to the end of the season and see how Atletico would get on in the first year through the simulation. A reminder, they were supposed to finish in the top 4 in La Liga, reach the Copa del Rey semi-finals, and reach the Champions League final once again. When they met the first objective, they finished in 3rd place, just like last season in real life. They were 6 points behind the eventual winners, Barcelona, and 2 behind their city rivals, Real Madrid, by 2 points. They were, however, a whopping 13 points clear of Bilbao in 5th place, so definitely hit that objective quite comfortably. In the Copa del Rey, they reached the quarterfinals, just like last season, before being knocked out by Barcelona, who were the eventual winners. And that was the same in the Champions League as well. Reached the quarterfinals before being knocked out by the eventual winners, Bayern Munich, who won the final in that competition as well. So it was a success in the league. However, I failed both the Cup and the European objectives. I was supposed to reach the semi-finals of Copa del Rey and reach the final of the Champions League, just like last year. Instead, only quarterfinals for both of those Cups, and that was a bit of a disappointment. However, the league objective was met, and as I said many times before, and I'll say it once again, the objectives in this year's FIFA were supposed to change the way you managed and set your team up. In the end, they're basically just trivial, arbitrary, and completely pointless, because if you hit your league objective 9 times out of 10, you're totally fine, and even sometimes if you don't hit, you'll still be fine. So I was fine to carry on for a season 2, and the team, you know, did well enough to finish in 3rd place, just like last year in real life. The one thing I would say though is that despite the signings I made, me initially thinking they'd be quite good, they ended up being quite poor in terms of the stats. Tolisso barely played and it was really bad form. Ceballos only played 2 games. Ontiveros didn't play at all. And it wasn't exactly great. You know, the players I brought didn't exactly have great seasons. Even Bernardo Silva, who did play quite a lot of games, didn't do too much in those games. I thought those 4 signings would be quite good, and I still maintain they'll be quite good for the future, but in the first season, didn't really do too well, which was a bit of a disappointment. But Atletico, though, a very fun team to use, of course, a bitter rivalry with Real Madrid, and of course, trying to outmuscle Barcelona and Real Madrid domestically as well. I think they'd be a really good side to use for a career mode, being a 5-star team, while still having an awful lot to prove as well, and still trying to win the Champions League after reaching the final last year, before, of course, being beaten on penalties by their arch rivals Real Madrid. Definitely a fun career mode though. I'd definitely recommend it if you guys are stuck for a new big team to use. Certainly a side I'd recommend, and I would still say that despite those 4 signings not doing too well in the first season, I would recommend every single one of them. But thank you for watching the episode. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, then please do leave a like. Much love to you all. Have a fantastic evening. Enjoy the Champions League football tonight, including the Atletico Leicester game, and I'll see you for the next episode of Who to Sign For, which will be with Borussia Dortmund next week. See you then.